This lecture is about understanding marriage as a social institution. When we think of marriage, the first few thoughts that come to our mind are celebration, gathering, good food, dancing, music, and perhaps happily ever after. But what is exactly marriage? Why was this institution formed in the first place? Let's understand this. So, marriage is a social institution that controls the people. How does it control the people? It controls people because it is a kind of contract between two people in which two people have to live with each other, they have to provide for each other, they have to bear and rear the children, they have to give legitimacy to that children. It helps in the matters of inheritance and succession. For example, if a man thinks of leaving a woman and if they're not married, the man is very free to leave her, and that makes the woman vulnerable and helpless. So, here comes the purpose of marriage, that it creates a bond. There is a liability on the man. He cannot just leave the woman, he cannot just leave his children, his family. So, that is why marriage as an institution is very important. It is also important because due to the sexual nature, sexual bond of marriage, it helps in rising, it gives rise to the family. Your children, then they train them, they care for them, and thus the socialization of the children take place. Now, in modern societies, marriage is also synonymous with companionship. It is not only about your um, your safeguards and someone's liability, but it is way ahead from it. It is also companionship, it is also love, it is also understanding. Now, there are various kinds of marriages all over the world, various marriages in various kinds of societies. The most common one being monogamy, where there is one husband and one wife. The other kinds are polygyny, where there is one husband with two or more wives. Next is polyandry, where one wife has two or more than two husbands. Now, fraternal polyandry, this is a marriage which is practiced in some societies, where the females marry the husband's brother in case the husband dies or leaves, and in case of sororal polygyny, the males marry the wife's sister in the same case if the wife after the wife's death. So these kind of marriages were made to ensure that the child is, if there is a child, he's brought up with the love of both the parents, and the wife or the husband, who the widow or the widower, they do not, they are not left alone. So in earlier societies, the relationship between the wife's husband and, sorry, the woman's husband and the woman's sister were encouraged. They were encouraged to be close and frank with each other, so just in case if the wife dies tomorrow, they could have a marriage between the two so that the child does not suffer. Coming to the rules of marriage, we know that as long as there is a variation in the types of societies, the rules of marriage will also change. There are definite rules in the society, and they tell you who you can marry and who you cannot. They tell you whether you are eligible to marry a person of a particular class, a particular caste, and so on. Even if we look at the countries like India today, we know that the intercaste marriages are not very prominent here. Why? Because there are some rules about who you can and who you cannot marry. So, we can talk about two rules of marriages. First is endogamy, and the second is exogamy. Endo means inside. So, when the marriage is within the group, and the group is culturally defined, you will not decide the group, it is pre-decided. So if I am a Rajput and my family decides that I should marry a Rajput only, so this is on the basis of my caste, and this will be known as an endogamy, that is marriage within the group. Now, exogamy is just the opposite of endogamy, that is marriage outside the group. So it happens usually in the case of gotra system, where two similar gotra people, they cannot marry each other. Next is anulom or hypergamy, where a lower caste woman marries a higher caste man. So that is allowed in their society. Next is pratilom or hypogamy, where a higher caste woman marries a lower caste man. So, this is something that is very rare to find. Very few societies encourage this kind of marriages. Now, there are various forms of marriages also. As we move from one society to another, or we look at one caste from and compare it to the other, we will see that there are various forms of marriages. First, in Muslims, marriage is a contract. In Muslims, marriage is known as nikah, and it is a contract between the man and the woman, and it legalizes the procreation of children. So, this is how it is a contract between them. Now, second is marriage as a sacrament. In Hindus, it is considered the sacred duties to get married in order to obtain moksha or salvage. So, in order to perform rituals, it is important to have male descendants or male children. They can perform the various rituals that are prescribed in the Hindu mythology or Hindu rituals. Man, according to the Hindu literature and Hindu text, is considered to be incomplete without his wife and children. Therefore, having a family is encouraged in the Hindu religion. Next is selection of mate. So, choosing marriage partners is not always confined to the people who are getting married. There are various societies where the parents' involvement, the family's involvement is much more than the people who are getting married. So, it is not always in your hands to choose your partner. There are societies who do not give the freedom to individuals to choose their partner, because there are already a list of rules about which tell you who you can and who you cannot marry. Then there is a lot of social pressure. The society also tells you, in a way, it tells you that you should get married before a certain age. It tells you that you should marry a fair girl, a tall husband, a well earning husband, a girl who you can look as a housewife. She should become an ideal housewife. She should not work outside. So there are various kinds of pressure to find a good match, and it all often creates a hurdle in selecting the partner of your choice. It puts your choice beneath the cultural and social pressure. For example, in India, it is said that the family is not between the man and the woman, but between the families. The whole the two families come together as one. So it's a union of two families. The next type of form of marriage is preferential marriage. So, as the name suggests, you prefer and you choose yourself. So, what happens in this kind of marriage is there are particular categories of relations or kins. For example, the marriage cannot be between the first cousin or the close kin relations, but across cousins are approved. For example, in Arabs and Muslims in India, there is a parallel cousin wedding that is allowed. So you should not be very close relatives, but across cousins are approved. It is allowed. So why is this kind of marriage approved? See, whenever a social institution is made, it always has a purpose behind it. So, the purpose behind this is the wealth is not disposed and it remains with the related family, because it is important that the wealth remains in the family itself. And the group relations, they do not fade away with time. When the girl gets married into the same family and the boy is also there, so the relations, they do not get bitter with time, they always remain stable and good. Now coming to some questions. Question number 1 is, the prohibition of Sargotra marriage among the Hindus is an example of. So Sargotra means similar gotra. Similar Gotra marriage is prohibited in the form of in the case of exogamy. So the answer will be B, clan exogamy. Next question is, Mohammedan societies permit polygyny, but Christian ones do not. From this, which of the following can be deduced? So we can know that, we can infer that a social norm operative in one social system, that is in the case of Muslims, may not be operative in another, here the Christians. So the answer will be C. I hope you understood this. Thank you for watching.